first part of the video. I thought I was recording and I wasn't. So what I've done is I've cut 2-inch strips that I am attaching like this. And just random order. So I'm trying to avoid having, you know, this or this situation. I might go with this, but this is a little bit closer than I would like. So I might do it like this, I don't know. But I do have other fabrics, so I will be incorporating some of that into this particular arrangement. Using 1/4 of an inch from just the edge of the foot here, so right along there, and I'm stitching with my foot in that position. So I'm using the edge of my foot as the seam guide, not my seam guide, not using that. The way I did this, which I just love, I love the way it's slouchy. I can reach in, I can get what I need, and then at the end of the day I can just do that. There's nothing special, like I don't have you know, any wire in here to allow it to be this malleable, but I like that. I like that I can do that, and then I can also just kind of close it up if I want to. It's very tidy, it's not very big, and it has a secret. And it's not the fact that it also has boxed bottom edges. Instead of using interfacing between the two layers, the lining and the outer, I used pieces of fabric, little scrap pieces of fabric that I didn't want to throw away. So I sprayed them with 505, which is a temporary spray adhesive, and then I just stitched the two pieces of fabric together in that manner after, you know, creating the two pieces, the outer piece and the lining piece, and then I inserted the lining piece to the inside of the outer piece, wrong sides together, and then there's just pieces of fabric in here as the interfacing, as opposed to just throwing that fabric away. And then I just folded in the two raw edges at the top to meet, and then top stitched around. And then you can, you know, you can see it's, you can fold this down once or twice depending on what you need this for. I received my order of zippers, but I didn't have a really good place to put them. So I thought, well, I'll just make a little zipper basket. So there we have that, which basically used up all of my fabric that I was probably thinking I was going to use to do this video. So then I thought, well, you know what? I think I'm just going to make a piece of fabric, which is one of my favorite things to do anyway. And then, pardon me, all of the scrap will be incorporated between the two layers using 505 spray rather than using a press-on interfacing. Okay, so as you can see, this needs to be squared up. These two edges are not even, which is exactly what will happen when you sew these little pieces of fabric together. They're not going to be the same size. They're basically, the only thing you can control is the width. So, and I'm using 2-inch wide strips. So I'm going to square up both sides and I'll be right back. Alright, so I have, as you can see, I've squared up so that just the ends are even. And we just have one long piece of strips of fabric stitched together. So this would be basically the outside of my basket. So since this is going to be the outside of this, basically this piece of fabric right here will be this. It won't be this big, but it will be close. I need to make a lining, so I need to know what size this is. So I'll measure this. Okay, 22 long by, I think we can just go ahead and say 7. So 22 by 7, which is not too hard to remember. So this will be the lower edge. I'm just going to go ahead, stitch across the bottom at 1/4 of an inch. Okay, and now I can trim this extra fabric to keep it from being bulky in that seam. I did that on both sides. Okay, and now I'm going to box the bottom of this. And the way you do that is you line up the side seam right here with the bottom seam. The easiest way is to just do it from the inside like that. You have a lot of other seams that you're going to feel because you've got all this seam together fabric. So it is good to just go ahead in this particular case and do a visual check. Okay. So now here comes the main thing. So I have all of this left over, these little pieces of fabric. I don't want to use anything that's got stitching on it because it will leave a ridge that I don't want. But these pieces of fabric are perfect. And I'm not likely going to use these for, you know, for anything. I might, but if I need little strips of fabric, I can always get little strips of fabric. Okay, so we said 22 by 7. So I'm going to cut one solid piece of fabric I think I will use the green, this fabric right here, 22 by 7. Okay, so we have our 22 by 7, and we also have a lot of little pieces of fabric here. So I'm just using an old packing envelope and my 505 temporary spray and fix. And if it weren't raining, I would do this outside, but I'm just going to have to be careful. So I just have random pieces of fabric here. Some are small, some are large, some are the pieces that we had cut earlier. And what I'm going to do is just spray and place my fabric. I'm staying about 1/4 of an inch out of the seam allowance. And then if I have pieces that are too big, I'll just lay them on and spray them down. The more the merrier. At first, when I started doing this, I thought, oh, I better not have overlapping, but it does add a little bit more structure to the item if you just go ahead and double up if you need to. And I don't think I would do this for, say, a garment, you know, clothing. I think it would be a little out of the realm of what's reasonable to do. But for craft items, I honestly feel like I don't need to waste the iron-on interfacing. And if you know me, you know I cannot stand the amount of textiles that end up in landfills, just perfectly good items that are just thrown away with no thought to what it's doing to the planet. And this is, to me, this is just a great way to use up some of the resources that I have. I know I'm not going to miss having these pieces of fabric, and they're serving a very useful purpose. I think I'll hang on to that. And I already have the 505. Alright, I think I'll put a couple more. I'll just put one here for a little stability. Okay, and now I'm just going to treat this as though it is a piece of fabric that I have put iron-on, press-on interfacing onto. It's extremely heavy, which I like. Okay, so here it is. It's dry. I'm not really feeling any tackiness. So I need to flip it to the correct way of sewing, which would be right sides together. I'm going to stitch down the side seam using that same seam allowance, 1/4 of an inch. Alright, so now we just set this in here, wrong sides together, so we never have to turn this back out to the right side. in this method. I'm just going to line up the boxed corners. Push these down into that and I'm going to do that all the way around on the lining. I'm going to fold it toward me. Now, depending on your preference, you know, you can either pin this or you can clip it like I've done prior to sewing. I'm covered in strings, okay, and then you can go ahead and stitch all the way around that top edge. And even if at that point you've already stitched all the way across and you think, oh, I wish I had, you can still do that. You can still go back and just, you know, put it on your machine, or you could even do it by hand if you want a little hand project, and just stitch between each of these joins in the fabric, and then your little basket will be complete. Another thing that you can do for stability, if you find that you need a little extra oomph, is cut a piece from something like this, or if you have a piece of acrylic, or if you have a notebook, a binder that has a plastic cover. You can usually cut, you know, a piece that will fit between this and here and across the bottom. And I will show you what I mean by that. And as you can see, I'm just eyeballing where I need to cut. I'm not being especially careful about that. I'm just eyeballing how, you know, how tall, how wide. If you really wanted to be, you know, super specific with it, you could certainly do that. I mean, I've used index cards, you know, those little lined index cards. I always seem to find those at garage sales. I did want to point out that if you put this or something similar in, it will be almost impossible to cuff this top edge. So that is something to consider if you want to do that cuff. Okay, and the other thing to keep in mind is you will be sewing through a large amount of fabric. You've got all of the fabric from the project itself, you've got all of the fabric from the 505 treatment, and then we have the cardboard, or the, you know, this in here. You could stitch it, you could put this in here so that it's below your stitch line, you know, just be careful of that. But it just turns out so cute. I love it. It's a perfect little storage basket. You could put fabric handles on the side if you wanted to, but it is holding its own. It's standing up really well. I could use it for almost anything. I could put, you know, put thread in there. I don't know what else. I am trying to get my sewing room a little bit more consolidated. It's a small room and it needs, I really need all of the storage space that I can possibly get. I mean, I have drawers that have hardware and then these in them. So And these, I mean, along with more of that, it's just, you know, and then I have these. So it's just kind of a silly conglomeration, which is what really precipitated the idea that I wanted to make little baskets to store things in. I will say that, to me, that is just adorable. I think it's really cute. It's a good use of fabric. I have a thread, there we go. And let's see, I bet it could even hold that. Yeah, look at that. It's got my 6.5 inch square ruler in there that it's able to hold quite nicely. I suppose I could put some scissors in here. Just keep it off to the side with all the rest of the stuff that I have in my sewing room that I need desperately to kind of organize a little bit better. And it all starts, you know, with the idea, the plan, and then the execution. So drop a comment below if you have any questions about this or any other project. I am currently working on a design for a multi-use kitchen item. Don't go out and get anything yet. I will try to do a pre-announcement on my Facebook page, which is Laurie's Heirloom Sewing page, and I will let you know what those I almost said ingredients because I also bake. I'll let you know what those notions and materials requirements are for the next upcoming project. But I think it's going to be really, really cute and functional, and to my knowledge I haven't seen any out there in the wild. So it might be a unique opportunity to make something that nobody else has. And I don't know about you, but even though it's June 30th, 2020, I'm already thinking I need to start working for the holidays. I need to get some things made. I don't like that crunch at the end of the year. So if you've got something in mind that you want to work on to try to get ahead of the holiday season, let me know, because we could definitely do that together. And you know, we'll just use up all our fabric scraps, keep all that textile waste out of the landfills. And you know, if you have here's an idea: if you have a piece of fabric that is, you know, 2 inches wide by say 22 inches long, that's a ribbon for a gift. I would hang on to those as well. That's just my little tip of the day. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share it with your friends. Thanks again, and I will see you next time.